Hello everybody, hope you're having a good day. So I don't tend to get that many hateful comments on YouTube, which I appreciate. Thank you very much, you're all very kind to me. However, one type of comment that does pop up quite often is one of concern. People are concerned that I'm not very well or that I don't look very well. And I guess the truth is, the reality is that I'm not very well. So I thought I would make this video kind of explaining what's going on, tell you what's going on kind of behind the scenes and what has been going on behind the scenes for several years now. But I'm not going to just sit here and speak for 10 minutes. I'm going to make some cookies because I want to make cookies and I don't want to just sit here for 10 minutes. So hopefully this is an interesting video and hopefully this is a helpful video because, I don't know, I think what I'm going to speak about could possibly be helpful to some people. Before I speak about what's going on, I want to say that I'm not looking for sympathy by making this video, and I'm absolutely not trying to claim that my life is harder than anyone else's. The reason I'm making this video is that I hope by speaking about my situation, some of you who are quietly struggling with similar things might feel encouraged to talk to someone, or maybe just hearing me speak about these things will help you feel a little bit less alone about what you're going through. So I've dropped little mentions here and there in some of my previous videos that I've struggled with some mental health problems for a long time now, but I've never really gone that deep on the topic until now. For a little bit of context, back when I was about 5 years old, I developed something called emetophobia, which is a phobia of vomit, after I got caught up in a couple of rather troubling vomit-themed incidents. From then on, I became quite an anxious wee guy, but I still managed to function well enough. I still went to school, still had all my friends, and I was still winning all my cage fights. Fast forward to when I was about 12 years old and entering my second year of high school, my mental health took a bit of a nosedive. I don't really know what triggered it, but I began having panic attacks which were so bad and so frequent that I could no longer go to school. I couldn't leave school because I was too young, and I was still panicking so much every day that I wouldn't have been able to get a job anyway. So I decided to just stay in school and give it my best shot. Up until I was about 17, I was constantly trying different therapies and methods to try and solve my emetophobia and anxiety. I did CBT, a few different trauma/phobia specific therapies. I did some emetophobia specific therapy, even tried hypnotherapy, but nothing worked. So that's the background of my issue, but the next part tells the story of how things unraveled quite quickly for me after I followed some fairly dangerous advice from a therapist I met with. When I was 17, I was put in touch with a therapist who had heard about my situation, and he claimed he could fix me. This guy came out to our house and he asked me to lay out all of the food that I typically ate in a day, and after looking at all of it, he told me that it was my diet that was causing my anxiety. He said that carbs and fats were basically poison for me and that I needed to just focus on eating protein and vegetables instead. Rather stupidly, I naively followed this guy's advice because, well, he said it would fix my anxiety. Before this point, I'd never had any real problems with my diet. It was fairly normal, I enjoyed food, and I didn't obsess over it. I always had lots of energy to do what I needed. I still really enjoyed playing sports. I was active. I was still cage fighting. And health-wise, in my body, I felt good. Within just a month of following this therapist's advice to pretty much only eat protein, I became quite ill. I was always skinny growing up, but with minimal carbs, fats, and overall calories in my diet, I rapidly lost a lot of weight that I couldn't really afford to lose. I noticed that I would quite often get lightheaded, dizzy, and sometimes slur my words, and that was because I was now very underweight and had low blood pressure. To add to that, my anxiety was not solved, it was not fixed. In fact, it skyrocketed because my body was just in such a bad way. I stopped seeing that quote-unquote therapist after just a couple of months, but the damage was kind of already done. My relationship with and enjoyment of food had been destroyed. My anxiety was now insane, and I was just so underweight and unwell. This kind of ruined me for about 2 years. Just after I turned 20, I decided to push myself to get well, I started eating basically just whatever I wanted, whatever I enjoyed, not caring about if it was healthy. I just needed food. By following this approach, I started regaining all of the weight that I'd lost. I finally got back to a healthy weight and just felt so much better both physically and mentally. This recovered stage lasted for a few years, but then things kind of took a bad turn again. I'm not very sure what happened to cause this second bad turn. I guess everything kind of just got a bit too much. After all of these years, I still had emetophobia. My eating and view of food was still disordered even though I was a healthy weight now, and the bigger picture was that I hadn't been and wasn't able to do all of the normal things that other people my age were doing, like going to and finishing uni, travelling, getting jobs, etc. It just kind of felt like everyone was moving past me while I was just stuck at home being not very well. And because of this, I just got quite down and began to spiral. Now, one of the things that happens to me when I'm struggling is that I lose my appetite, and it happened quite severely this time, which caused me to lose a lot of weight. I'm 5'7", and at my worst, I think I ended up being something like 80 pounds or 36 kilos. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you that is not very good at all. At that weight, I was constantly sore, tired, and anxious. And I woke up every day just quite surprised that I was still alive. I should have probably gone to the hospital at that point, but I just straight up refused to go. I don't really recall much of that time because I guess I've blocked a lot of it out. I also can't really remember what the specific turning point was in things improving, but with a lot of effort and help from my family, specifically my mum, I started improving bit by bit. I would focus on little tasks throughout the day just so that I was distracted, and I also did my best to just gradually eat more and more. For the first time in my life, I also started medication for my anxiety. I'd always been far too worried to take medication because I was terrified of side effects, but I can say that it did work for me. I know a lot of people have had bad experiences with medication for this kind of thing, and that some people are just against medication for this kind of thing, full stop. So I'm not trying to convert anyone, but for me it was good and it seemed to work. So fast forward to right now, it's been a few years since that really bad point. I'm still recovering, but I'm doing much better. I still have bad days and weeks where I might not look the healthiest, and I know that shows on camera, but overall things are actually very good. I'm surrounded by people that I love that support me. I live in a nice place. I've got work and little projects going on which give me a purpose. I'm in therapy and I go to the doctors to monitor things. I don't feel sorry for myself, and I certainly don't want any of you to feel sorry for me. Coming back to the reason for making this video, I just felt this was quite an important thing to speak about. I've got a bit of an audience, and I've noticed that being open about mental health is typically only accepted once you've beaten it. I thought I would go against the grain a little bit and just be honest about the fact that I'm still going through it, in the hopes that it might be a little bit useful to some of you out there who are also going through it, or know someone who is going through it. I am aware that making this kind of video does come with a bit of a risk, in that people might criticize me and my family for the way things were handled. To that, I would just say that we were all trying our best and doing what we thought was right at the time. It's quite easy to look back or look in from an outsider perspective and say, oh, you should have done this or you shouldn't have done that. But like I said, at the time, we were just doing what we thought was right. I'm also aware that some people might think I'm a total weirdo for oversharing this or even having these problems. In response to that, I would say I don't mind if people think of me that way. If 1,000 people think I'm weird or wrong for sharing this or having these problems, but one person who is struggling with similar things does find this video helpful, then it's been worthwhile for me to make. If you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll do my best to respond. And if you'd like me to make a video speaking about what helped me improve things from my lowest point, I'd be happy to do that as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.